Good morning, class. Today we are going to start with the topic drug and drug abuse. Now, what are drugs? Drugs are the chemical substances which are produced naturally or synthetically, and these are generally used for medical purposes to help patients to cope up with their illnesses. Sometimes they are also used for mental illnesses, like in case of depression, in case of inability to sleep, what we call as insomnia and excessive anxiety. And these drugs can only be obtained after a registered medical practitioner writes the prescription. Then only they can be obtained over the counter. But if these drugs are taken in excessive doses and more than the permitted doses, they are then called drug abuse. So I will be reading out about drugs for you. Drugs commonly are of four main kinds that we have to do. One kind is called opioids. The other kind is called cannabinoids. The third kind are called coca alkaloids, or the general term that we use for it is cocaine. And the fourth kind of drugs are barbiturates. So we will study about the characteristics of these drugs, how they are obtained, and what are the effects of these drugs. But before that, I will read out something about drugs for you. Drugs are the chemical substances which are naturally or synthetically produced. These are normally used for medical purposes to help patients to cope up with their illness. A large number of drugs are used to treat mental illnesses like depression, insomnia, and anxiety, etc. Such drugs must be taken carefully under medical supervision. If these are taken for a long duration, other than their normal clinical use in heavy amounts, that impairs one's physical, physiological, and psychological function, then it is termed as drug abuse. Now, commonly used drugs, as I told you, are of four kinds. These drugs are first opioids. Second kind of drugs are called cannabinoids. Third are called coca alkaloids. We also call them cocaine. And the fourth kind of drugs are called barbiturates. We have to study about these four group of drugs. So the first one, opioids. These are narcotic substances obtained from the poppy plant. These are obtained from poppy plant. Name of that is Papaver somniferum. This is the botanical name of the poppy plant, somniferum, genus and species. Opioids are narcotic substances obtained from poppy plant, that is Papaver somniferum. The most common opioid drug is heroin, which is commonly called smack. Chemically, it is diacetylmorphine. Opioids, common drug is heroin. It is also called smack. Chemically, it is diacetylmorphine. You have to remember this. It is a white, colorless, bitter crystalline compound. Heroin is a depressant and it slows down the body functions. Opiates are pharmaceutically used as painkillers, as analgesics and sedatives, and the long-term use of opioids results in psychosis and loss of memory. Then the second group of drugs are cannabinoids. They are cannabinoids, and these are obtained from cannabis sativa or cannabis indica, the plant from which they are obtained. Cannabis is the genus, sativa and indica the species, and these cannabinoids are bhang, charas is also called hashish, and ganja and marijuana. Now, these are derived from the plants Cannabis sativa or Cannabis indica. Chemically, it is delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, which is abbreviated as THC. That is delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. This is the chemical name of the drug cannabinoids. Dried leaves, stem and flowering shoot of this plant, Cannabis sativa or Cannabis indica, the dried leaves, stem and the flowering shoot yield bhang, the young female inflorescence yields ganja, and the undiluted sticky exudation that comes out from the leaves and the female inflorescence forms charas or hashish, and a mixture of plant leaves, seeds, stem and the flowering tops is called marijuana. Cannabis is a habit-forming abusive drug and it has hallucinogenic effects. Its use gives a general feeling of euphoria, an increased pulse rate, a decrease in blood pressure. It can also produce bloodshot eyes, red eyes, dry mouth, dizziness, and sometimes short-term memory is lost. Its effects are also hallucinogenic. Then the third group is coca-alkaloids called cocaine, which is obtained from Erythroxylum coca. The plant is Erythroxylum coca. These are obtained from the coca plant called Erythroxylum coca. It has an aromatic and a bitter taste. The powder can be sniffed or snorted through a straw or paper that is rolled, and it affects the nasal membranes. Cocaine interferes with the transport of the neurotransmitter dopamine. It has a potent stimulating action on the central nervous system, producing a sense of euphoria and increased energy. Fourth group of drugs are the barbiturates. These compounds are derivatives of barburic acid. They include phenobarbital, thiopental sodium, seconal and nembutal, etc. These are mainly used as sedatives. Their moderate dose relieves stress and produces a relaxing effect. Now, very important thing is that everybody knows that drugs are not good, but sometimes adolescents especially and children under peer pressure with their friends, they tend to just take it for the sake of fun, And over a period of time, children, adolescents get addicted to it. And once a person is addicted to the drugs, it is very difficult to stop taking drugs. And the result is that such children are unable to concentrate on anything. They are so dependent on drugs that they can resort to any means to arrange for drugs. It can be violence, it can be vandalism. That is why it is very important, and this education is being given to you all so that you realize it. And in no circumstance, under any kind of pressure, you resort to such methods. Here I would like to say that this world is full of stress, strain, difficult situations, but there are ways to solve it. Each one of us have our own problems. For children, there are different kinds of problems. For adults, there are different kinds of problems, but you cannot have a defeatist attitude. You have to be strong to fight all these adverse situations and adverse conditions and then come out as a winner. So resorting to any method is wrong. This kind of a method where you live in a dream world is different. Struggle is a part of growth. I firmly believe in it. If something is served to you in a platter, you will never value it. But something that you get out of hard work, out of sheer hard work, you get it. When you obtain it, you understand the value of it, and then you try to preserve it and keep it intact. So, I keep telling my students, it's your life. You have to make it. You cannot break it. So, studies is an integral part. You have to study. And with studies, to keep your body fit, exercise is important. One person should have hobbies where you can divert your mind and relax. Hobby should be like a passion, something that you enjoy. Children of your age love to play games, so develop some kind of habit of exercising. It can be playing games or general exercising, going to the gym, having a good circle of friends where you have common topics to talk to each other, and these are the habit forming years. Develop a very good relationship with your siblings. Be free to talk to your parents. Consider your family as your best friend. Your brothers, sisters, your parents should be your best friends, so that you can vent out the stress that you have. And whatever good or bad, right or wrong that you do, you should tell your parents so that you can be counseled. Nobody is always right. You try doing things, you fail, but take failures as stepping stones. Don't resort to anything that can harm you in any way. You know, children are very precious to their parents. Most of the parents live for their children. Most of the parents live for their children. They sacrifice so many things to give the best to their child. So, never take your parents for granted. They love you, so they expect something from you also. Respect them, love them, listen to them, discuss things with them rather than revolting. And I have been telling my students always that there is nobody else in this world other than your parents who will stand with you always, in good times, in bad times, in times of need, in times of happiness. So share everything with your parents and you will see the difference. You will be happy, you will be relaxed. And there are tensions, there is stress with every person in the world. You are no different, I am no different, your parents are no different. We all have our own set of problems. So we have to find a solution to the problems rather than running away from them. Okay? So I expect each one of you is going to be serious, is going to think in the right direction and work hard for success. Diligence is important. Intelligence alone can be of no use unless you put diligence with it, hard work with it. Everybody is intelligent, but it's the way you use your intelligence. So use your intelligence in the right direction to reap good results. Okay? So now after this I am going to tell you about drug abuse and how young children get addicted to drugs and what can be the effects of drug usage and how prevention and control is essential. So I will read all that out for you. Now, drug addiction. Physical and mental dependence on drugs is called addiction. It is a psychological attachment to certain effects such as euphoria and a temporary feeling of well-being associated with drugs and alcohol use. Inability to adjust to stress and strains, encouragement by friends or for fun often leads to habits such as drinking, smoking and taking drugs. Soon the person becomes so much dependent on these substances both physically and mentally. These substances alter the activity of the nervous system and develop a false feeling of relaxation and hallucination. With repeated use of drugs, the tolerance level of the receptors present in our body increases. So consequently, the receptors respond to only higher doses of drugs and leads to greater intake and addiction. First, they are effective in small doses. Then the receptors get used to those small doses. So for the effect, more and more doses have to be taken, and that's when a person gets completely addicted to drugs or alcohol or other abusive things. Dependence and withdrawal syndrome. Now, if you are dependent on drugs, withdrawing from it becomes difficult. Dependence is the tendency of the body to manifest a characteristic and unpleasant withdrawal syndrome if regular dose of drugs is abruptly discontinued. Withdrawal symptoms lead to anxiety, to shakiness, to nausea, and sometimes even excessive sweating. Dependence on drugs is so severe that a patient ignores all social norms and customs in order to arrange for funds to buy his drug doses. The effects of drugs. A drug addict becomes the cause of mental and financial stress to the entire family. Use of intravenous injections for drug intake may often lead to diseases like AIDS and hepatitis B, both of which are chronic infections and ultimately fatal, will lead to death. The use of drugs causes damage to nervous system and leads to liver cirrhosis. So, prevention is best. We say prevention is better than cure. But if prevention does not help, then proper medical advice is required, control is required, and a few points that are mentioned here which should be followed both by teachers and parents to control this. They are: parents and teachers must take care of children. They should regularly check behavioral changes in children. A healthy atmosphere should be provided to growing children. Encouragement for their performance is the best way to keep the child away from any kind of stress. There should be no undue pressure on the child. The choices and the feelings of children should be respected. They must not be forced to do a particular thing which they do not like. They should not be pushed to perform beyond their capacity. There should be no comparison among children. The children should be counseled regularly. This will prepare them to handle stresses and accept disappointments and failures in life. The children, as I told you, failures are stepping stones towards success. So never take it in the wrong sense. If you fail once in something that you are trying to do, that should not be the last thing. You should attempt more and more. It is said, practice makes a man perfect. Practice leads to perfection. You cannot get the thing right always in the first time. So try till you succeed. The children should be made comfortable so that they are able to vent out their feelings of anxiety and guilt. A child should be encouraged for physical activity, should involve himself or herself in sports and other games. They should also be encouraged to pursue their hobbies. The friend circle of children should be monitored, particularly if change in behavior is noticeable. Early recognition of the problem and timely remedial measures can solve the problem easily. With professional help from doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and with family support and the willpower of the affected person, no problem remains unsolved. The problem can be solved, it can be cured, and the person can lead a healthy and a normal life. So, each one of us have to think about our benefit and work towards it. As I said, diligence and hard work are important to achieve success. Resorting to wrong measures will not lead us anywhere. Take care, good luck, be happy, stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy life.